The story continues as we see Ragna feels really strange and sad because it seems like he's going to lose the fight. This feeling is pretty normal for future Ragna. Right now, he feels more than ever that his future self is very close, and it feels really bad. Ragna has figured out that the energy flowing through everything here is not the same as dragons. Dragons have magical power instead of this energy, and that's why Silverine exists. The world made this power to fight against the magic that changes things. While Ragna thinks about all this, enemies are coming closer. With just half a second before the nearest one gets to him, he uses that time to make Silverine's freezing power better. Then, Ragna gets ready to attack, knowing he only needs one swing to beat his enemy. He also knows that what makes future Ragna powerful isn't just Silverine's fighting style. It's also what he learned from experience, like how to survive a battle. It might be hard to believe, but all of this happens in just half a second, thanks to Ragna's super fast thinking. Next, Ragna moves his sword, and a bunch of freezing power comes out, wiping out all the dragons at once. He does all this thinking that he just needs to imagine the attack in his mind, and it happens. He remembers that moving a sword for him is like creating an image of a dragon-free future and making it real. Meanwhile, Terrektra is thinking about things too. He knows that when enemies keep coming, they also get tougher and spread to others. Altazora agrees but says it doesn't matter how tough they are because the princess is really hurt and needs protection. Starlia decides to go northwest, so a soldier picks her up and carries her. Altazora also tells them that Platinum Tyra is attacking the base, the one who can stop time, but they can't talk to her anymore. Terrektra also can't hear anything from Altazora. Altazora wonders if they lost the battle while getting information about the air squadrons being shut down. What impresses him the most is how quickly the base defeated the 13th seat and a powerful mature dragon. Checking that Terrektra's magic needs 5 more minutes to recharge, Altazora decides this is the time they have to survive. He plans to handle the soldiers outside and those responsible for bringing down the air squadron and asks his colleague to notify him when he's ready. Terrektra questions if Altazora is truly aware of the situation because he usually doesn't need help to understand the battlefield. He worries that Altazora might be rushing things. Regardless, Altazora's main concern is for the princess and her men, and he assures Terrektra that he will take care of her. Meanwhile, Ragna makes a small mistake and realizes that the last attack didn't go as planned. He needs to adjust the attack's form. Suddenly, Shin appears and finishes off the dragon. Confused, Ragna acknowledges that Shin is right and remembers advising him not to act like a hero. Out of nowhere, Ragna admits that Shin was right and apologizes, allowing Shin to fight as much as he wants while promising to protect him. Ragna emphasizes that fighting together means covering each other's weaknesses. They move forward with Ragna internally battling to overcome challenges because, for him, facing desperate situations is a way to adapt and gain power for the future. Shin, however, dislikes Ragna's intense power and the fact that he kept it hidden until the last minute. What he dislikes the most is Ragna getting excited like a child with any sign of approval from him. Meanwhile, Garm figures out that Ragna didn't exactly grow stronger. It's more like the powerful warrior instincts in him are waking up. This guy's abilities have been refined over a long time, and Garm decides to observe and fight alongside him to absorb and learn whatever is missing in his technique. In the midst of the battle, Mr. Slime recalls Crimson's instructions to keep an eye on the human and realizes it's okay to snack on some dragons in the meantime. The mood shifts from hopelessness to excitement. Altazora decides to bring in more mature dragons. The first of the Tembertaff species uses magic to manipulate the environment, becoming invisible, super fast, and creating force fields. Ragna easily defeats it and 3 more of the same type. When Shin questions why Ragna doesn't leave some enemies for them, Ragna is focused on hunting all the dragons. At the same time, Shin notices Mr. Slime growing. Altazora is almost in despair because none of this makes sense. Ragna effortlessly takes down the mature dragons, using techniques that seem familiar. Meanwhile, civilians are facing zombified humans with unfamiliar weapons, indicating they've been brainwashed. This cruel and unusual situation doesn't match the princess's behavior, so Altazora suspects someone else is giving orders. It reminds him of the events in the capital, where civilians were sacrificed to face Ultimacia. Meanwhile, Crimson is taking control of the magic circle. After messing with the minds of regular folks, and witnessing Fu channel a lot of magical energy into the circle, the redhead controls the other mages and smacks Fu's arm to carry on with the plan. Annoyed by the unquestioning obedience, Fu asks what was done to them. Crimson mocks, saying he just made everyone friends, while the guy remembers the princess mentioning a big mass of death she saw in the red head. The guy agrees with the princess. Catching on to the guy's thoughts, Crimson starts talking about good and evil, claiming the princess is a smart person who understood the situation quickly. She knew that no matter what she said, if the choice was to leave the civilians and escape with only the soldiers, most of the troops wouldn't follow her. Even if it lowers their chance of surviving, soldiers need a purpose, which in this case would be to protect the 15-0 citizen. Crimson adds that with most of the army now under control and chaos outside, they no longer need such a purpose. He argues that wickedness would be sacrificing important people for useless ones, which is exactly what's happening. Therefore, good would be the opposite of that. The redhead concludes that the citizens understand their survival is slim and chose to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Fu strongly disagrees with brainwashing and magical hypnosis, finding these actions awful. Being a mage, Crimson tells Fu that he doesn't need a purpose like soldiers and warriors do. He even apologizes for the arm, explaining it was a precaution against the guy's surprising power. With others' help, Crimson has already taken steps to transport only the troops, using a third of the gathered magic. Now, it's up to Fu to activate it, and Crimson expresses a desire to befriend Fu for this reason. Meanwhile, Altazora is pretty sure the person who destroyed the capital is the same one controlling the citizen. Now, the task is to figure out who the Reaper is. Altazora thinks there's a good chance it's Ragna. Even the big dragon thinks about calling Kamui, but that's risky because the Reaper's power is too close to Kenwu, and it might lead the progenitor to another dimension for elimination. Crimson predicted Altazora would think about these things, so he planned his moves carefully, knowing Altazora wouldn't make inconsistent decisions. Outside, there's chaos. Greya, one of the twins, is dealing with flying combat when she gets surprised. On the ground, soldiers are pushing forward, even trying to figure out the enemy ratio. With Greya down, some dragons try to attack, but she fights back fiercely, even eating the dragon's flesh. Her sister, Hesilla, joins in, and after recovering, they get ready to go back into the battle. Back at the base, Crimson is flirting with Fi when discussing gender, saying whatever he thinks is right. Crimson enjoys looking so neutral to be loved by everyone because people can go to great lengths for love, even sacrificing themselves. While Crimson talks about wanting people to love him, especially Fu, who has powerful absorption magic, the guy starts losing consciousness and almost goes into a trance. Crimson was about to tell Fu to activate the circle when Majorca interrupts, going against orders and calling Fu her brother. Crimson remarks that they don't really look like siblings, but Majorca is stopped by one of the hypnotized civilians who accidentally shoots at point-blank range. Fu tries to retaliate, but Crimson quickly immobilizes him again. Frustrated for losing the hypnosis link, Crimson tries a more aggressive approach, threatening to eliminate one thaumaturge every 10 seconds, starting with the least talented. He begins the countdown, and the woman panics, thinking something is wrong because they drew the circle together and got along well. However, the countdown doesn't stop, so Fu surrenders, saying he will obey. Suddenly, a bright light shines in the hall, and Majorca undergoes a transformation with light hair and eyes. Crimson orders an attack, but the shots stop before reaching her. She declares her hatred for the redhead and orders him to leave. As she says this, Crimson and the civilians disappear, and Majorca falls unconscious. Now out of the trance, the other thaumaturges are desperate, apologizing and stating they didn't see the truth. They pledge not to trust anyone blindly from now on. The question now is what happened to Crimson, and Fu imagines that he was teleported, but has no idea where. Far away, Crimson finds himself falling from an incredible height, realizing that Majorca teleported him. Just as absorption magic resides in Fu's body, teleportation magic resides in hers. Despite everything, Crimson finds it amazing because the brigade is truly full of talented people. The problem is that Crimson became too greedy with these things. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for more anime recaps.